8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They look like aliens to us.
On the morning of May 1st, 2023, the Las Vegas Police Department received an unexpected report from a citizen. The citizen said that they had just seen a 10-foot tall alien in their backyard. At that time, the person who received the phone call was half believing and half doubting. The Las Vegas Police Department later saw an image of an unidentified glowing object falling from the camera lens of a police officer who was on another mission. The important thing is that the number of people who saw the unidentified flying object fall down at that time was very large. In addition to the person who reported the case, there were also local residents who saw it.
What'd you see?
It was like a big creature.
A big creature?
Yeah, like around 10 feet tall.
I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
Even other residents took pictures of a falling object from different angles. If this incident is true, then the 10-foot tall 3M alien that the person who reported the incident also mentioned is real. Do you know what this means? This means that aliens are about to be able to reveal the truth about their existence to us. Otherwise, how could they appear so boldly? Unfortunately, we were unable to find any further reports related to this incident. However, while searching for documents, we noticed one thing. In fact, since the 1960s, Dr. Hynek, a scientist in charge of the United States Blue Book project to investigate UFOs, has come out to declare that they have already made contact with extraterrestrials. He even knows the purpose of extraterrestrials coming to Earth, and all these stories must start from 1945. That year, the United States ended World War II with 2 atomic bombs. However, the strange thing is that after the end of World War II, the United States continuously reported that people saw unidentified flying objects, also known as UFOs. The number of UFO sightings reached a peak in 1947. At that time, American newspapers published a UFO-related report almost every week, to the point that everyone was constantly discussing. What are these UFOs that appear frequently? Not only the people were curious, but the US government was also thinking about this issue, so the United States then established a number of projects to investigate, including the famous Project Blue Book. The project was established with 2 main purposes. First, to analyze and investigate UFOs based on scientific methods. Second, to confirm whether UFOs pose a threat to national security. With the active investigation of the US government, a total of 12,618 UFO sightings have been investigated, but 11,917 of them have been considered to be human misidentification or false reports. The US government finally decided to end Project Blue Book in 1969. Although 11,917 cases were considered to be explainable, there were still 701 reports that were classified as unidentified. If just one of these UFOs was actually from extraterrestrials, then history would need to be rewritten. One of these cases is particularly special. The person who reported the case not only said that they had seen a UFO, but they also said that they had been to the planet of extraterrestrials with their permission. This report was even recognized by Dr. Hynek, a scientist of Project Blue Book. Today, we will talk about the most incredible case of extraterrestrial contact, the Andreasson Event. The story today needs to start from Joseph Allen Hynek of Project Blue Book. He was a famous American astronomer who participated in the United States satellite program, U.S.A. So when the U.S. government established Project Blue Book, they immediately invited Hynek to be a consultant for the project. It is noteworthy that in the early stages of the project, Hynek actually had a great skepticism about UFOs. He even believed that most reports of UFO sightings were lies made up by bored people in order to attract attention. However, what Hynek did not expect was that along with the investigation of the project, he changed his mind and even publicly declared,
I started almost as a complete skeptic because I thought the whole thing was a question of post-war nerves, but it was the persistence of the phenomenon that finally led me to the belief that we had a real phenomenon to deal with.
When the United States decided to terminate Project Blue Book, Hynek established a UFO research center. In 1975, he received a very important letter from a person who said, "Dear Dr. Hynek, I am very glad that there are still scientists who are willing to investigate UFOs." Believe me, the UFO event is definitely not a lie, because I have sat on it. According to Dr. Hynek, he was very curious when he discovered that the person who wrote the letter said that he had sat in a UFO. So he decided to keep reading. It turned out that the sender of the mysterious letter was Betty Andreasson, an American woman who lived in Massachusetts. In 1954, Betty married James, and after marriage, they had 7 children together. Although the couple's income was not very high, they relied on their farm work and their lives were still stable. Betty thought that she would also have a normal life like her mother, but in 1967, something happened. In that year, Betty's husband had an accident and had to be hospitalized for a while for treatment. At that time, Betty's father was afraid that she would not be able to take care of everything, so he came to her house to help take care of her 7 young grandchildren. On the evening of January 25th, with the help of her father, the whole family had just finished dinner. At this time, Betty's father was busy repairing furniture in the warehouse, the children were in the living room watching TV, and Betty was in the kitchen washing dishes. Everything was going on as usual. At around 6:35 p.m., the power in the house suddenly became unstable, and after a few seconds of flickering, it went out immediately. The children were terrified and screamed. At that moment, a beam of light shone into the kitchen from outside. Betty followed the light and saw a huge, colorful lamp landed on their lawn. Betty realized that something was wrong and instinctively ran to the living room to find her children. When she saw her children standing still in the living room, she didn't know what to do. Suddenly, she saw something flying into the living room. However, the door was clearly closed, and even more frighteningly, the things flying in were not objects, but people. At that moment, after witnessing the strange incident before her eyes, Betty was so scared that she could not help but scream. Suddenly, Betty found herself lying on the bed again, and the person from earlier had disappeared. Betty sat on the bed in a daze, thinking, could it be that all of this was just a dream? But why was the dream so real? Thinking of this, Betty suddenly thought of the children and immediately ran to their room. Fortunately, the children were all fine. Betty looked at the clock unconsciously, and it was already 10:40 p.m. But strangely, apart from the fact that the power in the house was out and there was a strange light shining from outside the door, Betty could not remember anything. She even did not remember how she got into bed. Originally, Betty did not plan to continue thinking about this. After all, she still had to take care of so many children. But 2 days later, Betty's eldest daughter suddenly told her that she had a very strange dream. In the dream, the power was out and there was a continuous red light shining from outside. This was exactly the same as the little bit of memory that Betty had left that day. So, to confirm the incident, Betty asked her father. What surprised her was that her father not only saw the strange light, but even saw 4 people coming out of the light. At that moment, after hearing her father's story, Betty's memories suddenly flooded back, and she remembered that she had also seen the mysterious light that night, and had seen people coming out of the mysterious light. They even flew into the house. In a letter to Dr. Hynek, Betty describes how, after regaining her memory, she clearly remembers the mysterious beings passing through the door. First, they turned into bright lights, and then, when they had completely passed through the door, they turned back into physical beings. When Betty saw this scene, she was truly incredulous. As a devout Christian, she thought that they must be angels, since the Bible describes Jesus as being able to pass through objects and even walk on water. However, she wondered why they looked so different from angels. In her letter, Betty also attached some illustrations that she had drawn herself, and she described the beings as having pear-shaped heads, almond-shaped black eyes, almost no whites, no ears or nose, but 2 holes in the place of the nose, and a mouth with only a slit. Of the 4 mysterious beings, one was taller, but only 121 centimeters tall, and he seemed to be the captain. Betty said that although everything was very sudden, she did not feel afraid, and even felt a sense of familiarity with them. At this time, the person who looked like the captain suddenly said to Betty,